Hello everyone, you are a person, I am Jose, and this channel is Haunted Cruise. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time. So as of this recording, the last video I shot was a little bit of a long one. It was the first in our series of recalling all 62 original Goosebumps books by memory. The first part was an hour and 24 minutes long, which was not how long I anticipated that video being, or honestly any of the videos here on this channel, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So this channel doesn't focus exclusively on books. I know that's been mainly the coverage that we've had thus far. We will be branching out to other forms of media, but I am, for all intents and purposes, a bookish person, as I assume many of you out there are. And the thing that sometimes happens with bookish people, book collectors, book readers, is that we tend to amass quite a lot of books, all different kinds, all different genres perhaps, or all different shades within a given genre, and we just love these things so much. We love reading and we love getting information from books and other written works that we just can't help ourselves sometimes. We pick up books wherever we can find them, and the next thing you know, our significant others are considering divorce because we've amassed so many books within our own personal libraries. Thankfully, I'm not in a situation where, compared to some very bookish people out there, I don't really have too big of a library. Some folks would consider it pretty big. It does take up a room, but that is literally it. I'll have maybe a few other books lying around the house, but I know there are folks out there who have like storage bins full of books or storage units full of books and so on. But the thing is, we amass a lot of books, and the sad fact of it is we do not have all the time in the world to read all those books we've amassed, no matter how much we want to. Reality is always getting in the way of reading a good book, or even a bad book sometimes. So I wanted to have this fun little feature where, as a person who doesn't have a mega ton of books, but still a considerable amount, I take a look at my collection and I just pick more or less a random title off the shelf. And I peruse it here in front of you in the form of a video, and I kind of determine based on that, is this a book that I might actually want to read from start to finish in the future? Because that's always a tough thing, right? We look at our collection, it's time to select your next read, and you feel all this pressure that to pick the perfect book from your personal collection, the one that you know or 90% confident that you are going to finish from start to end. Of course, it's perfectly fine to stop reading books that you don't like and to either give them away or put them back in the collection for another day. I am still somebody who's somewhat conservative in that regard, and that it's still kind of tough for me to call it quits on a book. Even though I know that's just the reality of the situation, I don't want to spend my time reading a book that isn't really giving me anything. I still can't help but feel a little brokenhearted when I close a book and either file it away for another day or even consider getting rid of it. That's just me, I guess, and I'm sure it's a lot of you. So I wanted to take a little bit of that pressure away from the selection process and, in a sense, just bring a sense of fun to the act of reading, because whether we know it or not, we build it up into this big thing, and it gives us so much undue stress when really it should be seen as an opportunity for adventure, right? So with that in mind, this is a new feature on the channel, a little bit of a mini-sode. At least I pray to the forces of goodness that it's a mini-sode and not something like the monolith that I just recently filmed. And we are calling this Off the Shelf. Pretty straightforward, huh? So our first title for this series is The Scary States of America. I know, topical, too soon. So, The Scary States of America by Michael Teitelbaum. I just recently picked this up somewhere, and I almost had a little bit of a brain lapse. I was trying to remember, where did I actually get this book? I think I picked this up at my library, the public library where I work. This was one of the donations that we received for our friends of the library bookstore. So I caught it on their shelves and I couldn't help myself, so I had to snatch this one up because I have to admit, I am a sucker for books like these. I don't actually have a lot of them, but I love books of this particular concept. They're essentially almanacs, almanacs being things like Guinness Book of World Records, Ripley's Believe It or Not, Weird But True is a popular series for children that we have in our library. All that fun stuff, all the National Geographic type titles. Always so much fun because they have a feature that I've talked about before in my professional work called random access. Almanacs, encyclopedias, things like that, they have this feature of random access, which it's pretty self-explanatory within the name itself. They allow you to access the book anywhere, anytime, because they're divvied up into bite-sized sections or entries. You don't necessarily have to read the thing from start to finish because it's just kind of a treasure trove of information that there may be an overriding theme, but there's not necessarily connective tissue that you have to read in sequential order in order to glean meaning from the text. You can flip to a random page in the middle of the book and still be able to enjoy it and have it make sense. So that's random access. That's a feature of encyclopedias, almanacs, that makes it really fun to just kind of have around. Bathroom readers are another phrase commonly associated with books like this, just because no matter when you have to go, you can just sit down and pick up the book next to the John there and read any old page while you carry about your business. So The Scary States of America has a subtitle of 50 Weird and Terrifying Stories Based on True Events. So not only am I a sucker for almanacs and encyclopedias, but of course, this being the Haunted Cruise channel, I'm a sucker for spooky stories. So whether that's spooky fictional stories or spooky true stories, don't really have a preference one way or the other. I just like things that go bump in the night, right? So we have a blurb here on the front cover. This is from Michael Buckley, who is the author of the New York Times best-selling series, The Sisters Grimm. Hey, we have that series at our public library. So this is what Michael Buckley has to say about the Scary States of America. Fun, creepy road trip of all 50 states, packed with monsters, myths, and mayhem. If only all local folklore was this exciting. Now, could someone please check for monsters under my bed? Question mark, exclamation point. So that blurb, particularly that last sentence, might have come off as sounding just slightly condescending to some of you out there, but don't worry, because as this handy little URL on the back of the book tells me, www.randomhouse.com/teens, this was a book meant for a young adult audience. So you see, Michael Buckley wasn't being condescending to adults, he was just being condescending to young adults. So yeah, apparently this was a title that was meant to be marketed to young adults, which I don't feel bad about at all. And frankly, I think this is a title that anybody should be able and should want to read, regardless of who it was originally marketed for. You know what I mean? So taking a quick look at this front cover, definitely getting a slightly vintage young adult vibe from it. This kind of seems like a clip art special that we got going on here. I'm gonna have to ask you to pardon the glare from my ring light here. I'll try to hold the cover in a way so that you can see my freakishly large hand. There's nothing I can do to hide that, but hopefully you'll be able to focus more on the cover and less on my paranormally sized hand. So we got a few things going on here. There's the United States in shadow in the background there. So yes, we got the America all covered nicely. We have some UFOs, very Harryhausen, perhaps even Ed Wood looking UFOs hovering in the background there. In the very background, we have what looks to be a blood-spattered shed. I mean, I hope they weren't trying to communicate that that was a house. I mean, of course, it could have been somebody's house at some point in time through history, but that honestly looks like a tool shed. And maybe it is. I haven't read the book, right? Maybe it's a haunted tool shed. Who am I to judge? But we also have what looks like a vampire bat. This little guy right here, vampire bat. We got a snarly wolf, further damning the reputations of the vampire bat and the wolf, not doing them any favors. There's a pretty stern looking monkey, or perhaps cryptid of some kind, maybe a cousin of Bigfoot, kind of grimacing over here on the side. And then we have a lizard, also hanging out here. It just kind of looks like a Gila monster, maybe a Komodo dragon, I'm not sure. But apparently there's something spooky associated with them. I mean, they are kind of scary, but I'm not sure what the story is there. Maybe lizard people? I don't know. I'm getting so pumped up with anticipation just looking at the cover with all of you. We have what looks like a police sketch of an extraterrestrial here. I don't know. Maybe he was the suspected perp in a gas station robbery, for all we know, in Oklahoma. Maybe that's the story for Oklahoma. No offense, Oklahoma. We have a cow that has some duct tape looking X's over its eyes to signify that it is no longer with us. I've got news for Michael Teitelbaum, but dead cows are pretty commonplace. In fact, I did eat one not too long ago, but maybe we shouldn't tell him that. And then rounding out this lovely panorama, we have a quintessential favorite, the creepy Victorian children, yes, who of course had to stand super still to get that photograph taken, and thus they achieve the effect of looking like corpses even in life. So yeah, quite the lineup we have here for the Scary States of America, and we haven't even opened the book yet. Boy, what is going to be going on in the cover of these pages? I don't know, but you know what I do know is I want to read the back copy of this book. That's just kind of a groove that I got into from doing the Goosebumps books. I had so much fun doing that I think anytime I have the opportunity, I'm going to want to read the back copy on the books. So here's what we got for Scary States of America. Aliens, ghosts, and monsters haunt the pages of this eerie trip around the scary states of America. With Jason Spector, the nation's unofficial collector of all things paranormal. I have a haunting suspicion that Jason Spector is not a real person. As your guide, meet the girl in Illinois who can start fires with her mind. The skunk ape of Florida, hey, which knocks victims flat with its stench. And the mischievous shadow people of Arkansas. You may find yourself checking over your shoulder for the dangerous Jersey Devil, or the extraterrestrials who visit Washington State and take human organs as souvenirs. I visited Washington to get human organs, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. You might even feel sorry for the wailing ghost of a teenage girl trapped forever in an Oregon lighthouse. Oh, that does sound sad. Some of these visitors from other worlds don't mean to hurt anyone, and some of them do. Warning! All of these stories are based on true events. Are you ready to face the terror in your state? I wasn't kidding, that warning label is on the back of the book. So we are dealing with some hot, explosive stuff here. So, boy oh boy, I cannot wait to open this book and see what we are dealing with here. Alright, so we're flipping to the copyright page. So, published by Delacorte Press, an imprint of Random House Children's Books, a division of Random House Incorporated, New York. Cut that part out. Copyright 2007. Yes, that was definitely the feel that I got from this cover. This looks like something that I definitely would have seen during my high school years, and maybe that I would have made during my high school years, honestly. All right, so we have for our contents, the contents are just an alphabetical listing of all the states. The first entry in our contents, and thus the book, is an entry called Meet Jason Spector, who is, again, probably not real. I think the name's a little bit of a giveaway, but maybe I'm wrong. And looks like Missouri's on page 197. This is a pretty fat tome. A Final Word, page 401, and how this book came to be, page 403. I might want to read that section. Let's see if we can just find... Okay, so I flipped to the end of the Meet Jason Spector section. Let's maybe read the last few paragraphs that we got here from the pen of Jason Spector. I've made some friends doing this, mostly other bloggers also obsessed with the paranormal. Most I've never met in person. I figured this book would be another way to get the word out. I've picked one tale I uncovered in each state in the USA, or as I've started calling it, the scary states of America. Can you imagine on all of his documentation? Where do you live? Oh, Omaha, Nebraska, scary states of America. These are my 50 favorites. Some are so scary that they'll keep you up at night, and some are just sick. Others will creep you out. But I've also learned that the paranormal world is not always a horrible place. All right, you're selling it really well so far. Some spirits are actually kind, and some aliens have even saved lives, and they cannot be held responsible for the organ stealing that their cousins are doing over in Washington State. Come on, guys, you're giving us a bad name over here. That last part was me. That was not Jason Spector. Although, honestly, what's the difference? That's why I keep searching and collecting, learning all I can about the realm of the unexplained. Welcome to my world. Jason Spector. All right, well, after an intro like that, how can you possibly skip on any of the no doubt stunning entries in this lovely book? All right, well, I don't want to be obvious and go directly to my state, which is Florida, and I kind of already know about the skunk ape. I read about him in another almanac, a totally general, generic almanac that for some reason I had in my house as a kid. It had entries on all kinds of things, superheroes, cryptids, apparently. I can't really remember any of the other ones, but yeah, that's the first time I learned about skunk ape. Let's go with something totally random. How about Idaho, page 94? Let's see what you got. Oh, look at this. Isn't this adorable? I gotta show you this. Where it lists the states and the page number at the bottom of the book, it also has these little pairs of spooky eyes. They're like, oh no, these states are so scary. Don't read anymore. Turn back while you still can. We spooky eyes. All right, Idaho. Oh, I skipped over it. Idaho. Okay, so the entry for Idaho is called A Cry in the Night. And it looks like each of these entries are broken down into little mini sections. Oh, it's a little bit long. Hopefully this video doesn't get too long. So it looks like it breaks it down into what I learned in history class, and then a story you won't find in your textbook. So I'm thinking that means what I learned in history class about Idaho. Yeah, I'd love to know. I don't think I learned a damn thing. And a story you won't find in your textbook, which appears to be the main meat of the entry. So Idaho, A Cry in the Night. What I learned in history class. Idaho is known as the potato capital of the world. Okay, I did learn that. Sorry. I retract my earlier statement. In 2004, potato farmers in Idaho produced 13.2 billion pounds of potatoes. Scary states of America. It doesn't get any more frightening than that. Okay, just kidding. A story you won't find in your textbook. Do you believe me? If I had $1 for every time I read that in an email or an IM, I'd be one rich guy. Oh man, so all of these are from the perspective of Jason Spector. Here we go. I don't believe every story I get. I'm not naive. There are a lot of people pulling pranks out there, and some ghost stories are just that. Stories. But sometimes I get a message from someone who so desperately wants to be believed, I just know they're telling the truth. Too bad for Barbara in Boise that I seem to be the only person who feels that way. Barbara in Boise, come on. Oh, and they actually have the authentic, no doubt, email addresses from bmoulton@bnet.com. to Jay Spector at scarystatesofamerica.com. He said he just started calling them the Scary States of America. What's the real story, Jason Spector? You already have an established email address with that in its name. Come on. But anyway, sorry. Subject, all lowercase. Believe me? Question mark. Maybe I do like this format. So this is Barbara Moulton from Boise talking. Jason. I need someone to believe me. I wish I didn't see what I saw, but I did, and now I have no home. Will you listen to my story and not judge me? Ooh, that is a pretty good gripping start. Let's see what transpires. Barbara, this is Jason talking. Oh, sorry, no, that was Barbara's signature. My bad. I wrote her back and told her that I'm not a judge, just a collector of the paranormal. I always get those two mixed up. Damn it. Here's what she wrote back. Thanks for getting back to me and offering to hear my story. I'm 13, and my name's Barbara Moulton. Oh, I feel a little bad for making fun of her now. I read your blog all the time. Well, ever since it happened. So, I figured you might believe me. My parents sure don't. Yeah, that's not an adult writing as a teen at all. That's why I'm living with my friend Madison and her family. That, and the fact I will not go back to that house no matter what anyone says. I hate thinking about it. From the day my family moved into the 110-year-old farmhouse, she's really packing in that exposition, I felt there was something weird about the place. I always had the feeling that I was being watched. Yeah, me too. I hated going upstairs. I just knew that someone or something was up there. Why does everybody always say that? Someone or something. Pick, okay? One or the other is scary. It doesn't have to be both. Don't be greedy. Someone was watching me. Just leave it at that. That's creepy enough. Authors out there, just giving you a tip. My parents told me it was just my imagination. Yeah, wouldn't have been able to guess that if I hadn't turned the page. I was only 11 when we moved in, but I knew that something wasn't right. Then things started going missing from my room. The weird thing was that my stuff, my clothes, hairbrushes, dolls, and other toys, wasn't touched. What was taken were things I had for my dolls. Baby bottles, clothes, tiny combs and brushes, even a small crib where I kept my favorite doll. I'm not scared. I'm just sitting on my back patio at night in the cold, reading about a ghost who's taking toy baby things. The doll wasn't taken, just the crib and the tiny quilt that was in the crib and the other baby-sized stuff. Then one night, about a year after we moved in, I heard a noise that woke me up from a sound sleep. At first, it sounded like a soft sobbing. No, you're freaked out right now. But as I lay awake, my mind racing, I clearly heard the sound of a baby crying. Oh, God damn it. I jumped from my bed and ran along the upstairs hallway. The sound seemed to be coming from somewhere in the hall, but it also felt like I was surrounded by it. My whole body was overcome by grief, which I couldn't explain. I started to weep, sitting right there on the hallway floor, a huge weight of sadness pressing on my shoulders. Forcing myself to stand, I ran into my parents' room and woke them, but by the time we all stepped back out into the hall, the crying had stopped. They told me I'd had a bad dream and sent me back to bed. But the same thing happened again the next night, and the night after that. After a while, I stopped waking up my parents. They had started to become pretty upset with me and thought I was turning into the girl who cried wolf. So I'd stay in bed listening to the baby crying, panicked and wondering if I was going crazy or if there really was something out there. A few months ago, I made the discovery. My parents had been renovating one part of the house or another since the day we moved in. At this point, they were working on the upstairs hallway, scraping off layers and layers of old wallpaper. Come on. One day, when I was home alone, I happened to notice that several layers of wallpaper had been scraped from the center of the hallway wall. but it looked like one more layer remained. The corner had been started on the last layer, and I just couldn't resist reaching up, grabbing it, and pulling it away from the wall. I wish now that I never had. I tore away the final layer of wallpaper, and what I saw left me standing there in total shock. Hidden under layers of wallpaper was a door. I was so curious, but I was also totally scared. Finally, though, I ripped away the remaining pieces of paper to fully expose the door. Why would someone hide a door behind wallpaper to make it seem as if the door never existed? I wondered. And more importantly, what was behind that door? The door had no doorknob, so it could remain. Fuck! My water equipment just kicked on and I almost died. I almost died just now. God almighty. Oh. God damn it. Come on, power through. Do it for Jason. The door had no doorknob, so it could. It's just too soon. The feeling's still too real. The door had no doorknob, so it could remain flat. Okay, my battery's dying. I really gotta speed this up. The door had no doorknob, so it could remain flat and hidden. I pushed on the door, but it was locked. It was making me crazy. Me too. I had to know what was behind that door. Racing to my father's tool cabinet, I grabbed a screwdriver. Slowly, I unscrewed the hinges. Then, I yanked the door open to reveal a small room. I stepped halfway inside the room, and a rush of freezing air poured through the door. My chest got tight, and I couldn't take a full breath. My fingers stiffened and immediately started to turn blue. I felt lightheaded, like I was about to faint. I stumbled back into the hallway, and all the weird sensations went away. I should have run, but some part of me still had to get to the bottom of this mystery. I took a deep breath, then stepped all the way into the room. No freezing air. I looked around uncertainly and saw a very old crib, some old toys, and rolls of wallpaper patterned with cartoon animals. It was definitely the kind of wallpaper someone would use in a baby's room. My heart almost stopped when I looked in the corner of the windowless room. My stuff! What the heck? I said out loud. Clearly edited herself. If her reaction was anything like mine just before. How could these things end up in a locked room, sealed behind 100 years of wallpaper? Then I noticed a large metal box on the floor next to the crib. My heart beat faster as I slowly opened the box, its rusty hinges creaking ominously. Inside, I found a baby's bonnet, a pair of handmade baby shoes, and a lace christening gown. I pulled a yellow newspaper clipping out from the folds of the gown. Looking closely, I realized that it was an obituary. An obituary for a baby, conveniently folded into the clothes. Don't you love that? Her name was Elizabeth McIntosh. She had lived for only 3 months in the year 1915 and had been sick for her entire short life. The address listed in the clipping was my address. The freezing air returned as I set down the clipping. This time it gripped me like an icy claw. My whole body shivered violently. I fell to my knees and started crying. Then my throat began to close. I gasped for breath, much like I did. In a last desperate attempt to live, I flung myself out of the room and lay sprawled on the hallway floor. My breath returned and the chills passed. Then the truth of what happened came into sharp focus. This was to have been baby Elizabeth's room, but she never lived to see it completed. The family must have suffered such sadness that they couldn't bear to see the room, so they sealed the door behind the wallpaper and boarded up the window from the inside. No evidence that a window had ever existed remained on the outside either, but someone or something There it is again. Maybe it was the ghost of Elizabeth herself. Still wanted to prepare the room for a baby. Elizabeth wanted to prepare her own baby room? Well, kids went to work at like age 2 back then, so yeah, maybe. Scrambling to my feet, I ran downstairs and stepped outside. I glanced back at the house, looking up at the spot where the room would have been. I saw a window where the day before there hadn't been one. In the window, I saw a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothes, crying and holding a motionless baby in her arms. Good God! I kept running and haven't been back to the house since. My folks are upset. They don't believe me. They said I should stay with my friend until I stop lying and want to come home. What kills me is that they know the room is there. They just don't believe that I heard the baby or got the chills when I went into the room. Really? After all of that? They say I made up seeing the woman with the dead baby. They even say I put my doll things in there myself. I hate that house. The McIntoshes lost their little girl when they lived there, and now my parents don't even realize they're losing their own daughter, too? You do believe me, Jason, don't you? Holy hell. Okay, I don't know how much time I have left on my battery here, so I'm just gonna put a quick pin in this. What more do I need to say? I just turned to a random entry in this book. I did not expect, as a 30-year-old man sitting out on his back patio, to be scared by an entry from the scary states of America. Granted, there were some environmental factors that came into play there, but still, wow. I doubt very much that story in its entirety is true. I bet there was an account that Jason Spector read in a newspaper or online about a baby cry, ghostly baby crying in the night, and kind of fabricated the narrative to surround it. But still, oh my God, that was an insane entry to randomly happen upon in this book that, I was joking would be a bathroom reader, and the clip art panorama on the cover. Wow. So, needless to say, this is a book that I think I will be needing to return to sometime very soon in the future. And if the battery is dying, I really hope that the audio isn't compromised and the microphone is crackling out. If I disappear suddenly, just know that it was Elizabeth McIntosh, and I all love you very much. Just keep on living a good life without me. But no, seriously, Scary States of America, Michael Teitelbaum, you son of a gun. You got me good, and I'm gonna have to come back to this book at some point in the future. So, first episode of Off the Shelf, and it was off the hook, if I may say so myself. So thanks for joining us. Check this out if you come across it. I don't know if all the other entries will stand up to A Cry in the Night, but I think it's worth a shot. Take care, and don't try to get scared by any baby ghost today. Bye.